All right. Thank you guys so much for being here and welcome. It's so exciting to be here today. I really feel like Cannes is all about creativity, sharing the best campaigns, like the best of what happened that year. And so I couldn't be happier to be here with these two to really share some exciting insights that can be shared with everyone and used by other marketing teams and brands that are out here in the audience. So if you don't know me, I'm Michelle O'Donnell. I work for Brave. It's a privacy browser and search engine. And then I'll let these two introduce themselves. David?
Hi, I'm David Zucker. I'm the Chief Marketing and Digital Officer for Perdue Farms. We're an $11 billion agriculture business on the East Coast of the United States. Before that, I was the GM and Chief Marketing Officer for Omaha Steaks in Omaha, Nebraska. I've got 2 kids, and I'm going to be a grandfather.
Woohoo! Yay! Awesome.
And I'm Jessica Henrichs. I'm president of Colle McVoy and David's partner in crime. And I am not going to be a grandmother, but I'll babysit.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's start off. We're going to talk about a specific campaign that is really important to share. But before we get into that, I'm just going to ask a couple questions to sort of give you guys some background into how everything came about. So I'll start with David. David, I know that the relationship between Colle McVoy and Perdue is a unique one. Some might say quite special. Can you tell us a little bit about how you began working together, what sparked that partnership, and what's so unique about it?
Sure. I'd definitely say it's special.
I agree.
It's more special over time. So when we had some opportunity with our creative, and it was okay. So when I put the work out for bid, we really needed to find an organization that could meet the high demands we had on our creativity and getting our message across. Colle McVoy completely nailed the pitch. So they got to our primary issue within 2 weeks with less information than our current agency did. And that's one of the reasons that we awarded them the work. It was really important that they could do something like that. And then the second reason is that from a staffing perspective, it was important that the organization staff the organization or staff their team with the group that actually we target. And they did that. And that was a really big reason why I chose them.
That's awesome. When I learned about that, that meant so much to me because, like, I know so many people when they're like kind of junior coming up in the agency, working on accounts that they really have their own personal life has nothing to do with it in any way. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but I think it's extra special to like have your core audience working on your business.
Yeah, well, our target audience is between 25 and 45-year-old working mom, and that is not me. And so they did that, and they did it really well, and the creative showed that.
Purdue's such an legacy company. Can you talk a little bit about how your target audience has changed over time?
Sure. So our core demographic has been the core demographic since we started. She's gotten a lot busier, and chicken has 85% household penetration. People eat chicken 4 times a week, so we market to everybody, dads, moms, and everybody. But our target audience, this woman between 25 and 45, she's gotten busier. She's had more demands on her, and balancing that is a big challenge. And so we're communicating to her in a way that our products are solving her problems. That's a big part of the reason that we need organizations like Colle McVoy to help deliver that message.
For sure. So Jessica.
Yes.
How do you ensure that Purdue's brand identity is effectively communicated through your campaigns?
Through the campaigns. Perdue brand, it's a 100-year-old, 4th generation, family-owned and operated agriculture and protein business. They've been around for a long time, and what's been really consistent about Perdue and what also separates them from their competition is that they have a history of doing the right thing. They make 1,000 different decisions that we say add up to a better tasting chicken. Everything from their animal welfare practices to their sustainability practices. It's really impressive. They've got the goods. And we know that this target consumer that David was just talking about cares about that. So our job is pretty simple on its face, is we need to let her know that difference, and we need to let her know that that difference matters in her day-to-day because she is so busy. So make that choice really easy for her at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to get into kind of the meat of this. David, can you please talk specifically about your Chicks Mix campaign? I know it garnered a lot of positive press and very impressive performance. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think, do we have a video?
We do have a video.
That's probably the best way to describe the case.
Perdue, America's oldest family-owned chicken supplier, feeds its chickens the cleanest, healthiest chicken feed around. And they wanted to prove it with something Americans love most, a snack.
Now, this next story here is raising some eyebrows this morning.
Would you eat chicken feed?
No.
For humans.
Humans.
For humans.
It's called Chicks Mix.
Chicks Mix.
Chicks Mix.
Introducing Chicks Mix. Chicken feed's so clean, you can eat it too. So while Perdue's biggest rival was feeding its chickens animal byproducts and antibiotics in every meal, Perdue doubled down on their clean, all-vegetarian chicken feed.
Unlike some competitors, its chicken feed doesn't have antibiotics and is, quote, so good that humans can eat it too.
Your chicken is eating better than you realize.
Their recipe has been the same for over 20
The
years.
Chicks Mix snack has corn, wheat puffs, and edamame with a dash of barbecue spices.
In other words, the same food that it feeds to its chickens.
Just like their chicken feed, Chicks Mix has no steroids, no hormones, no animal byproducts, no antibiotics. Chicks Mix was a big wake-up call forcing America to ask, what's in my food's food? It launched at the Animal Care Summit, sparking conversation from some of the biggest animal welfare advocates. And then people ate it up.
It's actually really good.
From Perdue Chicken comes an inspired response.
Yum.
You can try the human version out for yourself.
Wow. I love the flavor.
I'd be curious to give this a try.
Chicks Mix was transparency as a snack, proving Perdue's commitment to feeding its chickens as good as it feeds consumers. Chicks Mix, chicken feed good enough for humans to eat.
Yay. Woo-hoo. And I apologize. We should have brought like some for the whole audience here. Next time.
I usually travel with it.
Definitely want to go out and buy that now. It was a great idea. We'll talk about it maybe in a little bit. The other thing is that that's been nominated, shortlisted twice, right?
Yeah.
So we're pretty happy about it.
Well, Jessica, you were telling me earlier that, about sort of what sparked this whole campaign. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll talk about the Chicks Mix idea in particular. It's tied to a couple campaigns, but when we onboarded onto the Perdue business, it's only been a little under 2 years now that we've been partnering together. And David was incredibly thoughtful about how we approached onboarding. He told us week one, he's like, this is a really complicated business. Of course, we all go in like, okay, give us 2 weeks and we'll learn everything, like any agency partner. But David said, no, I'm going to give you a year. It is a complicated business, and understanding it and understanding the brand just matters so much when we're working with them. And so we dubbed it Chicken Camp. So for the first 3 months, we did a really deep onboarding where we visited farms, we visited their harvesting facilities, we went to their innovation lab, we met with the family. So Jim Perdue had us over to his house. We did tastings. I mean, it was a thorough onboarding process that we repeat as new people come onto the business too, because it really matters to see the process end to end and to really understand that point of difference. And so we were out on one of the farms, and one of our copywriters was out there with us. And Bruce, who works in animal welfare at Perdue, was like, no, the feed is so good, you could eat it. And he hands us a handful of it. And the idea was born there. It was literally that unbelievable notion that your chickens eat so well that we could pick up this feed and eat it right there on the farm. We added the barbecue sauce for the people. It tastes pretty good, actually. And so, that idea was born almost 2 years ago. And we've loved it ever since then, but we sat on it. We had a lot of work to do to optimize an existing campaign. We were doing a lot of work to understand the consumer and to prep for a new brand campaign that we were planning to launch the next year that's come out recently. But then something happened and kind of landed in our lap Tyson went back, as it said in the case study, on their claim, their no antibiotics ever claim. They started putting antibiotics back in their chicken, something that Perdue would never do. So timing was everything. We realized that that was the moment to go big and launch and move quickly to capitalize on that moment.
And you use a lot of earned media. Can you talk about like the importance of earned media in a campaign like this?
Sure. I mean, so the Chicks Mix idea is entirely earned at its core. This is something that, it's not a campaign. There was a campaign that went alongside it, but it's a product. And we knew that if we tapped into this cultural moment where, Tyson was going back on their commitments, a commitment that Perdue started. Perdue set the bar in the industry. When they came out, they said, we're never going to put antibiotics in our products. That was decades ago. And the industry followed suit. And so, we had this cultural moment. We had this idea of a potential product to launch. And we knew that if we had let the tension exist in that idea, that if we kept it so surprising in the form of a product like this that you could eat, that people would want to talk about it and share it. And, so, it was earned at its core. And really, we surrounded the earned idea with a campaign. And so that's been, I think, key to the success of it.
The one thing I would add is that, so earned is a strategic part in how we use it. And so when kind of the team came up with this idea and we sat on it, we had the conversation around putting it in social. It's a great, fun idea. 95% of what's in that 95% of what we feed our chickens is in that product. It's huge. It's a great message. As a marketing person, you want to get that out there. And we're like, it's just not great. It's not a great time. And we kind of got a gift from the gods from what was going on in the category. And it was perfect. It hit on absolutely everything. And then, like Jess said, the campaign that we put around it was perfect. So everything lined up.
That's awesome. Was there anything, can you talk a little bit about the results, like overall results? Because I know they were really positive, and I know you've shared some like metrics with me and numbers, but I'm curious about the results, and then if there was anything that surprised you about it in the end.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually really surprised it did as well as it did, to be quite honest with you. I think the biggest surprise to me was the fact that it kind of got into the culture when it got on Wait, Don't Tell Me. Yes. That was fantastic.
Love that one.
And then the other part of it that was really great was just, the amount of impressions that it got, that was fantastic. But what it did for our message and how it worked into the campaign, the strategic part of it, was probably one of the most critical things that we found.
And I think just to add to that too, we have multiple audiences with Perdue. We have obviously that consumer, that bullseye target, but the customers are really an important audience for us as well. So, whether it's Kroger's or Target or you name it. And it was something that they were talking about too. It really gave Perdue a message that was, very relatable, shareable in every sense. And so it was something that was able to transcend not just our target consumer, but really everyone.
Awesome. I'm going to move along to talk about another campaign that you did, or another message that you put out that I thought was really impressive, which is the whether they deserve it or not angle that you did on social. Jessica, can you talk a little bit about that? I know it resonated a lot with parents.
Yeah, that is our brand campaign kind of message. That the idea was born in social to some degree because we're following moms there. We're understanding what her world is like. We're living that world. I have 2 young daughters myself, and I think let's be honest. We love our kids, but they can be little shits, right? And so that's kind of the message, and it's a message that it's so relatable to mom. It's relatable to moms in this room, obviously, and dads too. We see you. We know that it's not just moms, but mom is our core audience, and she is the one who's doing the majority of the buying when it comes to feeding her family. And so we saw an opportunity to really better relate with her and better connect. This was an evolution from where Perdue had been in the past. Perdue invented advertising for chicken. There'd never been a branded chicken before Perdue. And we have a ton of respect for the original Perdue work that Frank Perdue put out there. It is so charming. But we sort of describe it today to Mom as mansplaining chicken, right? Like it's talking straight to camera. We lovingly call our Perdue family our Perdudes. And they explain in a really clever way, the benefits of Perdue, which are real. But Mom is really busy, and we saw an opportunity to reframe the family instead of just facing camera and talking about chicken as playing a role in support of Mom. She's the hero. She's at the center of the story. And they're kind of admiring, like, look at that, chicken cacciatore on a Tuesday, that's amazing. And, Mom will say, yeah, like those two deserve it. You'll see these quick cuts of all the awful things those kids did that day. And then it's back to that sort of family moment where the chicken looks delicious and it's, that sort of precious 10 minutes of time you really get at the dinner table. And so understanding her and her world, part of, casting the team with moms who understand that, but also really going deep into the audience and spending a lot of time in social was core to uncovering that and really understanding that it was going to resonate with Mom, which I think was, it's been a lot of fun conversations with David on, is this going to resonate? Is this too far? And I know you're going to talk a little bit about that, but we had to push each other and trust each other to, build belief in this campaign because it was such a departure, from where Perdue had been in the past.
Yeah. The one thing I would add that maybe Jess is a little bit too bashful to say, but we do a great deal of testing and research as we go through the process. This was the highest scoring advertising we've ever had in the 40 years we've been testing creative. And it completely shows in the results.
That's awesome. So you kind of opened the door, Jessica. So I will ask David, how do you balance creativity with the need to maintain the brand's established image?
I'm going to let Jess say that.
All right. Well, I will say Perdue has always been creative. Yeah. Inventing advertising and branding for chicken and the way they did it has been incredibly creative. And so, their established image has been one that's been very creative. I think, as creative people, we want to take risks. We want to do things differently. We want to, but we have to make sure there's, some water in the pool before we jump. And so it's a culture of testing and learning and research and making sure that jump is safe. When it comes to the established image of Perdue, they're a brand that, wants to be the most trusted name in food and agriculture. That's the aspiration, and they've got the goods to get there. And so it's our job to come up with creative ways to make sure that Mom, in particular, sees that, notices that in her busy life, that it breaks through.
Got it. So, given all of that, how are you able to balance innovation with efficiency when you're outspent 3-1 by your biggest competitor?
Killer creative. And seriously, it has worked. Look, I don't want to understate it. We launched a campaign before this, and it was based on a significant amount of research that showed really what our difference was, which is, Jess said it before, all these things that we do as a company add up to great tasting chicken. That was the idea. That work was recut by Colle McVoy, and we scored higher based on the research we had done. Within 6 weeks of that product being on air, the 3 metrics that we track really every day and gross up at the month level completely jumped. So we got 30% increases in our taste and trust scores, which are our key brand equity metrics. And our unaided awareness has kind of slowly been increasing as we've had it on air. But that great creative has been the answer.
That's awesome. What do you use to track that? Like you said 30%. Like, what are the tools that you use to track something like that?
We have a brand tracker
in
place that we track at 3 levels. We check for the total Perdue brand. We have 2 components of our brand. Part of our brand is fresh chicken. We call it ready to eat. So think raw chicken. And then we have a prepared business, think chicken nuggets. So we have 3 trackers in place because there are very different consumers that are buying for different use cases. And then the Perdue brand, like Jess said, has had an extremely long legacy kind of east of the Mississippi. And so they're all actually, they don't necessarily look the same every month.
And isn't Perdue the first brand of chicken that was a branded chicken in the store?
Yep, absolutely. There weren't any brand name chickens before. In fact, what's interesting is they fed the chickens, was it marigolds? It was part of their feed. It had some marigold in it, and it turned the chickens yellow. And back in the day, Frank Perdue would tell you to look for the yellow chicken, and it really upset some customers because they would have to have a yellow chicken case, right? And some customers, come in and they want the yellow chicken. That sounds terrible to me, by the way, but they don't. The chicken's not yellow anymore. But it was a big deal then, and so that it was really clever in the way he went about it. And so that you mentioned, balancing innovation with efficiency. I mean, that's an innovation. I think innovation is one of those words it's like content or social, where you don't bring out the innovation team. It's baked in. It's got to be in our process and how we think about our channel mix and how we think about our creative and our go-to-market strategy. It has to be core to it. And sometimes innovation is efficiency, certainly when it comes to how we're thinking about content and our production process.
For sure. So my favorite, the Suns, the Perdue Suns are my favorite. They did a social campaign where they were talking about is it okay to double dip a wing? Or if your mouth didn't touch one side of it, can you flip it over and dip it? I just thought that was awesome. So that, and then, this all comes out of the no antibiotics ever that we've sort of already talked about. But, the family is really at the heart of the brand. And it seems like you guys are utilizing it to the best of your ability and it's working. Why do you think it's been so successful, David?
So I would tell you, while the family is the heart of the brand, it's actually what the family stands for. So it's a family-run business. We're a private company. It's their leadership in terms of how we think about growing the kind of animals that you would want to feed your family. And it's literally, that's the level. We are not the most profitable chicken company. We do not make decisions based on profitability. The family does it. And so we clearly want to be profitable, and we are, but that's a big part of it. And so it's their thinking that's driven it. NAE was part of that. And the way that they think about constantly challenges the way that we think about growing the brand. No antibiotics ever, no animal byproducts. A lot of those things are what drive the thinking around how we innovate around the brand and how to communicate that to the consumer.
That's awesome because it seems so modern, but they've always been that way, Okay, so I'm curious, how do you collect and utilize consumer feedback to help improve your marketing efforts?
So again, we're not a direct-to-consumer business, so it's a little bit harder. We don't have that direct contact with the consumer. I have a background in it, and so what we're trying to do is get better at it. We do have a call center. If you have a problem with the chicken, you can call up. We man that. It's in our building, and that information is gets aggregated, and we have a monthly call that's attended by all the senior leadership, including Jim Perdue, every month. And we go through calls and we look at it. And then we're just starting to now aggregate and incorporate data from our partners like Walmart, Target, where you go online and
Well, and Jim sometimes doesn't wait for consumer feedback. One of our recent trips to Salisbury, we did some store visits, and Jim Perdue is in the back of the store ripping into packs to make sure the chicken looks good and meets his standards. So I'm like, get the camera. That's what I mean. That you don't see that from the big chicken company out there. That's a Perdue special.
Yeah, they're like, the boss is here. Hurry up. Make sure everything's good. Okay, so just for all the marketers that are sitting in the room, agency side, brand direct, what advice would you guys give them, when they're thinking about their business for the back half of the year and for next year moving forward, to try to have the most successful campaigns that sort of, just based on what you've learned over the last year? Any advice that you'd give to them?
Jess and I were just talking about this because a lot's changing. The election's coming up in the United States, and there's going to be a lot of noise on TV. And so what we're thinking about doing is kind of backing off that a little bit and really using the digital and social areas to do the capabilities of targeting, maybe do more in-store than we had historically in terms of our mix. So I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to test and learn into some emerging channels as well, because it is. I mean, we don't want to outshout what's going to be out there, and in the chaos of the back half of this year, there'll still be a role to play there. But I think it's a good opportunity to pivot and to try some new channels.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing this experience with us. It was super enlightening, also very fun just being here where the ocean is right there. If any of you have questions afterwards, feel free to find any of us, and thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your time.